G'day there, Emil from Performance by Design again with a session today on trust, the essential ingredient for innovation. Now, we know inside high-performing teams that trust is an extremely important thing. We talk about it a lot. We are trying to constantly build it as leaders. If you're not constantly trying to build it as leaders, then you may want to think about what you're doing. But let's dive into the session because there's a few quotes here that I'm going to read, okay? Like I said, always helping to build trust inside of your organization is a very important focus point for you guys as leaders. And where there's trust, there's dialogue. We call that real talk, that ability to give and receive feedback, irrespective of positions on the team, that challenge and reward each other. That open dialogue, that real talk is really important. What inspired me actually to create this particular video was I think it was a screenshot I took of a particular quote off of LinkedIn or something recently. But the quote was, "Building trust is bigger than tactics, it's your entire mission." And I totally agree with that. So I dove into it to create this little session for you guys today. So let's dive into another study that I sort of looked into, and I thought that the article was pretty cool the way they worded the title. What's love got to do with high-performing teams? And it was a study from Forbes magazine from a guy called Yoshi Bier, and maybe his name I loved as well to share with you. But he sort of talked about through the article and the study that without trust and openness, team members won't work their way through the conflicts that create outstanding results. Rather, by settling for compromise and by avoiding the tension, a team settles for safety and mediocrity. That's why at Performance by Design, we define a high-performing team as one where all team members can speak openly and honestly about performance, irrespective of positions on the team. It all tied into me as I went through this little exercise, creating this little session, because this is what everything we're trying to do is develop this ability to have real talk inside of your organization. That trust and love for each other is really important to drive that open conversation, which leads to the collaboration, which ultimately leads to innovation. That's why communication is so important, isn't it? And I've always said, ever since I've been working in this industry and running my own companies, that the strength of our internal relationships drives our external results. And our relationships are really forged on connection and trust, aren't they? And then I fell into a TED talk of quite a while ago that triggered my mind, and I found it very interesting that Johan Hari's work in the addiction space, he found through his years of studies in this space in Portugal and all around the world, we've had big addiction problems and also great non-addiction problems. He came to the conclusion that the opposite of addiction is connection. That's how important building trust is in our lives in general. Really important, isn't it, when you think about it that way? So what can we do as leaders? Always, how can we practically use the knowledge that we share inside of these sessions? First and foremost, be accepting of new ideas. How you react in any given situation, how you remain calm, and the energy that you have as a leader is the energy that your team members have. So be accepting of new ideas no matter how silly they may be. Say thank you when they present a problem. You want your team to feel safe to present problems on a consistent manner so they're not presenting you with something that's completely broken, okay? And ask questions after they present that problem to you. Answer the question with the question. Empower them to solve the problem. Don't just problem solve for them. That's a real kicker, a real good tip. They come to you with a problem, they ask you questions, throw a question back at them. Fantastic habit to get into as a leader. And especially, this is a massive one, say thank you when they have the courage to give you feedback. Whether you like it or you don't. Great leaders will respond by defaulting on thank you for having the courage to speak up, because now next time something comes up, they'll do it again. If you sever that in that moment and reject that information, the player that you are leading in that moment will probably revert to not doing that in the future, and that's not a great space to be in, okay? So today's question, final quote that Yoshi talked about in the article I thought would bring up for you guys. The search for the secret source of high-performing teams has turned to paying attention to behaviours and conditions that will increase the oxytocin levels. So we even got down to the cellular chemical level of trying to build that oxytocin level. So when we do that, that's our trust and love chemical, right, inside of us as humans. Now the question for today, what are you or can you do to fire up the trust train within your team and or organisation? And second part to that, what simple structure can you implement to keep your trust train going? That's it for today. My name's Emil from Performance by Design.